Okay, the CW has created several shows based on DC Comics properties, which began with Arrow and then expanded with The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and Black Lightning, all of which return for new seasons this month. With the possible exception of Black Lightning, which so far hasn't been shown to connect to the others, these shows form a cohesive, tight little universe known collectively as the Arrowverse. And while Flash and Arrow were always meant to tie together, Supergirl was originally on another network, although it was incorporated into their universe by a crossover and eventually picked up by the CW when CBS dropped it, which actually is sort of a microcosm of DC's publishing history. The origin of DC Comics is actually the origin of three companies connected by common ownership but not intended to be part of the same whole: National Publications, Detective Comics, and All American Comics. In the mid-30s, comics were just starting to come into their own, and at the time they consisted of reprints of the Sunday pages of popular newspaper strips. Industry leader Eastern Color Comics had titles such as Famous Funnies, which gave us one-page doses of then-popular strips like Mutt and Jeff, Joe Palooka, and Buck Rogers. It was in 1935 when Major Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson formed National Allied Publications and entered the comic scene with New Fun Comics, the first title in the medium to feature entirely new content. New Fun initially aped the format of Eastern Color's books, featuring one-page stories that copied the look of Sunday newspaper strips, although over time longer stories would become standard. New Fun would be joined by New Comics, and both would have title changes to More Fun Comics and Adventure Comics, respectively. National Comics wasn't doing terribly well, however, and to cover his debts, Nicholson brought in publisher Harry Donenfeld as a partner. Shortly after, Nicholson and Donenfeld's accountant Jack Leibowitz formed another company, Detective Comics Incorporated, which produced the title Detective Comics. Unlike its predecessors, Detective Comics, the title, centered around a single theme, detectives and mysteries, and National and Detective Comics would quickly merge into a single entity, National Comic Publications. With Detective being its most popular title, however, the company's branding would be built around the initials DC, and its logo would be an early version of what would come to be called the DC Bullet. Meanwhile, Nicholson never completely recovered from his financial problems, and Donenfeld and Leibowitz forced a buyout in 1937, which caused the company's founder to give up on commerce altogether. A shame, since the company's fourth title, Action Comics, would introduce the character who would set National on a fast track to industry dominance and change the face of comic books forever. Superman, champion of the oppressed, the physical marvel who has sworn to devote his existence to helping those in need. Simultaneously, future publishing legend Max Gain started another comic company, All American Publications, in 1938, with funding from Donenfeld and Leibowitz. Although initially unconnected except by co-ownership, All American and National ran house ads for each other's titles, and even joined forces to form the Justice Society of America in the pages of All American's All-Star Comics, which featured an even mix of National and All American characters. All American even used National's cover branding. Although a rift in the 1940s would cause All American to distance itself from National, kicking their characters out of the Justice Society, Gaines eventually sold his interests in the company to Leibowitz, who quickly merged it into National, while Gaines went on to found EC Comics and its longest-running success, Mad Magazine. During this time, many incredible characters were created, from true icons like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, to long-running legends like The Flash, Hawkman, and Green Lantern. Well-known second-stringers like the Spectre, Dr. Fate, the Atom, and Hourman, to lesser lights like Sargon the Sorcerer and the Gay Ghost. Although famous for creating the superhero, they also published the entire range of genres, from humor comics such as Scribbly, war heroes like Red, White, and Blue, Aviator, Hop Harrigan, and the anthology series Minute Movies. Hey, what's the big idea busting in on a private fight? Oh, we just came to see you show off. How can we thank you, Black Pirate? By banishing evil superstitions from your mind, and remember, there is no witchcraft. Hot dog! Boy, are we mystery men, or are we mystery men? But superheroes were DC's bread and butter, and it was very defensive of its characters, especially Superman, who launched the genre. More than once, they threatened legal action when another publisher's character seemed a bit too close to the Man of Steel, putting an end to characters such as Fox Features' Wonder Man. But their most persistent legal battle was with Fawcett Comics, whose popular Captain Marvel not only had many of Superman's powers, although with different trappings, but who also had the gall to actually outsell the Man of Tomorrow. The lawsuit lasted years, eventually ending when Fawcett conceded not because they admitted defeat, but because in the years after World War II's end, superheroes simply weren't selling comics anymore. Every publisher of the early 40s comic book boom was either closing their doors or switching to other genres. Timely gave up Captain America and the Human Torch for westerns, romances, and monsters. Archie was sweeping away the Shield and Black Hood for wholesome teen humor. Harvey dropped the Black Cat and Shock Gibson for friendly ghosts and poor little rich boys. Quality Comics went under, with DC snatching up the rights and even keeping the title Black Hawk in print without a hiccup. But while every other superhero lost the fight with relevancy, DC kept chugging along with Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman in the forefront of their lineup, and even maintaining Aquaman, the Green Arrow, Johnny Quick, and Robot Man in their back pages. Then, after a bit of success with Martian Manhunter and Detective Comics, in 1956, DC took a risk in issue 4 of their tryout title, Showcase. They brought back the Flash. Or rather, they brought back the concept of the Flash in the form of a new character, a sleek, modern-for-the-times take on an outdated character which hit the ground running at just the right time. This new Flash was popular enough to revive interest in superheroes in general, and soon enough there were new versions of Green Lantern, Hawkman, the Atom, and a new incarnation of the Justice Society, this one called the Justice League of America.
I've got this game rigged so that every time Flash makes a move, a member of the Justice League disappears from the face of the earth.
Other publishers were getting back in the superhero game or forming in the wake of this renewed interest, and DC celebrated their success in 1961 by letting their new Flash meet the old one, and thus was born DC's multiverse. Earth 1, the home of the Justice League and their current heroes, and Earth 2, the home of the Justice Society and the heroes of the Golden Age. Soon, these would be joined by Earth X, where dwelt characters acquired from Quality Comics, Earth S, home of Captain Marvel and other characters DC recently picked up from Fawcett's demise, and worlds like Earth 3, where the Justice League's counterparts were the world's greatest villains, or Earth A, home of heroes very reminiscent of DC's closest competitors. Times change, however, and the multiverse they were proud of seemed to be a bit cluttered, especially after the acquisition of characters from Charlton Comics. So in 1986, DC launched the Crisis on Infinite Earths, a groundbreaking crossover event which literally shook the multiverse and resulted in DC's entire catalog of characters sharing a single world, with many characters getting new origins or backgrounds to incorporate or facilitate this new continuity. Fixing the continuity, however, created new continuity bugs, and DC would fall into a cycle of rebooting their universe every few years, sometimes subtly, sometimes wholesale, and often to a mixture of praise and criticism. DC would continue to grow, however, launching an adult imprint, Vertigo, which originally consisted of more mature takes on DC characters such as Swamp Thing and Sandman, though it soon became a home for creator-owned content like Y the Last Man and Fables. DC would also continue to pick up other companies' IP, notably Wildstorm, formerly an Image Comics imprint created by Jim Lee, and Milestone Media, a small collection of titles featuring primarily heroes of color, with which DC had already had a publishing agreement a few years prior. A couple of attempts to pick up Archie's superhero characters happened as well, though they never quite managed to pry the characters fully away from Archie. At the end of it all, DC is a melting pot of characters and concepts that weren't created to share a continuity, and yet they do. And when you have a universe that can comfortably fit both the manifestation of God's vengeance in a mortal host and the space cabbie, well, you've got something special there. Two great tastes that taste great together, just like Supergirl and the Flash, and that is the Arrowverse's Golden Age influence. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is conclusive. Something's disrupting the fabric of time itself.